Okay, so welcome to the May edition of the Franchise Company First Friday. And today, our host for the session is Sean Goldsmith from Groe Global. And Sean's going to talk to us about lots of things to do with AI in franchising and how franchising can be used in a variety, so how AI can be used in a variety of ways, including in franchise recruitment. Sean is based in South Africa. He's joining us, I think, from Cape Town today. So
Yep,
welcome, Sean, and fabulous to have you here. And I will pass over to you now for your session for us. Thank you.
good stuff. Well, thank you, everybody. Nice to see some familiar faces too. Just a little bit of background for any of you guys who don't know me. Julie and I were just reminiscing that we actually met about 20 years ago at the BFA head offices in Oxford. Man, has it been a wild ride from there. But just to give you a really basic overview of what we do at the moment as Groe Global. So we're actually a fractional outsourced franchise management company. So we've got about 500 in the next month or so, going on possibly another 1,000 franchisees directly under management. So what that means is we actually manage the franchise networks. We've got 2 franchise networks in the UK that we manage on a day-to-day basis. And the whole where that all came from was from COVID. We had a Facebook group called the Franchise Mastermind Group. Became very, very clear that there were gaps in the evolution of franchises where franchisors needed an experienced hand or experienced hands to help them through certain periods of their evolution. But it was often just too expensive, right? To find the right franchise manager or the team or whatever, just is a nightmare. So, we basically stepped into that breach for a number of different franchises over the years. And, predominantly at the moment, we're actually managing US-based franchises, as I said. Currently 500 under management, and then we've got more. But the company does a full 360. We launched over 200 stores across America and Canada last year. And that includes, when I say launch stores, I mean actually physically the operations managing the build outs, the managing the fire department regulations and everything like that across the US. But now, as part of our evolution, what happened was about 2 years ago, as everybody knows, there was this weird thing called AI that suddenly dropped in the laps of the world. And up until, very recently, most people were using things like ChatGPT to make great little poems. And every now and again they did a little avatar of themselves and blah, blah, blah. And, you could very clearly see AI generated images. You could almost certainly identify AI generated content and all of these things. But nevertheless, for those again who know me, I tend to throw myself neck deep into things that interest me. So about a year and a half ago, maybe even a year and 3/4 ago, we developed one of the first prompts, ChatGPT prompts, that would actively interview franchise candidates. So, the idea was basically that, as we all know, in the UK, it always used to be a ratio of 100 to 1 or 100 to 2 in terms of sales, and you had to go through loads of people. You had to make outbound phone calls, and basically just, destroy your soul doing it, trying to find those 1 or 2 great candidates that you wanted to speak to. So the idea was, well, hey, I wonder if we can do this on a chatbot. So we created this prompt, and it worked wonders. It even would make judgments on the person based on the style of their response, etc. Give you an idea in terms of their mindset, whether or not they're even ready for business or not. We started doing that, and then we suddenly realized this AI thing was just going at breakneck speed, and it was snowballing in terms of its how effective it could be. So we started actively developing what is in essence I guess a great second in charge for a franchisor, but completely AI driven. So We started looking at how we could do predictive analysis on franchisees, how we could sort of intercept issues that franchisees regularly experience before they know or that's happening. And I'm just looking at Alan now, and I definitely know he'll know what I'm talking about here. But experienced franchisors will often have a 2-minute conversation with a franchisee, right? Who, just a casual conversation, and almost immediately pick up that there's something wrong, right? And almost certainly know what generally it might be that is wrong, in order to go and investigate and figure things out. And generally speaking, if you've been around the block a few years like we have, then you're quite accurate. But how do you do that with the fact that you're only speaking to these franchisees sometimes once a year, especially the guys who don't want to talk to you? You book in your monthly meetings, your weekly meetings, whatever, but there are guys who just don't get to speak to, and their numbers are good and everything is good. So they kind of fall through the cracks every now and again. So we started looking at this predictive analysis that franchisors could use, where we could take a look at everything from their numbers, connected to their Xero, to their accounting packages, connected to everything, make it a central source of truth for franchising. And the whole idea was not to get rid of franchise HQ staff, right, but to basically give them Iron Man suits. Allow them to completely and utterly focus on the human element of everything, rather than have to, as we always do, suddenly find out, urgently, that this guy says he's about to go bust, and we didn't see it coming, and the signs were there 6-7 months ago, but nobody actually acted on it, and did anything about it. So we started looking at how we can start building that machine that would give us an early warning system, would allow us to intervene subtly before something became a thing, and all of that based on the experience of franchisors and all of that. But then, as we were going on, the demands for what people wanted from AI and didn't know that AI could do started snowballing. So it turns out that most franchisors, especially in the States, the single most important thing they want to do, and when I say franchisors, I broadly throw brokers into this category too, because they effectively act as the franchise sales guy. And what they wanted was vetting. And man, they would do almost anything over in the States for well-vetted leads. There are guys that are paying in excess of $250 per vetted lead, that come in. There are companies, a company I came across just the other day, where for all intents and purposes, all the broker is actually doing is vetting the lead, right? That are paying a flat fee of $35,000, right, for every successful signing. And honestly, the amount of the requirement for the broker to vet these people is the same as any AI could do. And they're making 35,000 at a shot. So that industry was rife for a little bit of disruption, I'd like to call it. The vetting was one thing. Then support came in. How do you free up your support people to be able to focus on the human element of support, again, taking away that massive repetitive sort of bulk of questions that come in? How do you have something that is like your best support person on their best day, that can answer almost anything instantly, but at the same time, right, allow that person to not deal with that kind of stuff, but do those nice fluffy calls and chats and really build a human relationship. So we started looking into AI-driven operations manuals and support agents and things like that could really free up the workload from head office. Basically, in short, what we figured out was that every franchisor, right, should be able to scale up their capability in terms of their support and their ability to assist their franchisees without having to scale with a lot more staff, right? And what it also does is it. Oh, sorry, the question there. Okay. That's okay.
No.
The second thing was that what you wanted to do is, I've always had the saying, well, for many years in franchising, is that the definition of franchising is excuse elimination, right? Our job as franchisors in many cases is basically to go, okay, here's an excuse. Let's set up a system to overcome that particular problem and never let it be an excuse again. And slowly but surely, we just keep plugging away at that, right? So with the AI, again, the ability for it to learn and to adapt to the local situations and everything as a support tool became absolutely incredible, especially recently, because these things are snowballing. And there's very, very positive reasons why you definitely should be looking at AI right now for your franchise. But also there's a few warning signs, something that I've been speaking about for easily about 8 to 12 months now, in that AI is also a massive, massive risk to every franchisor. Because in essence, the AI for many people, and this could be actually impacting franchise sales at the moment, AI is able to provide people with a lot of the support that average franchises were able to provide. The knowledge, the marketing help, the everything like that. And I would be absolutely blown away if in the next, 6 to 12 months, we didn't see an AI franchisor come up. That was almost entirely run by AI. The reason I know this is because I'm trying to make one too, but just as a project. But, it really is a thing. And I think that regardless of what anyone says, I think that, we've got to be very cognizant of the fact that franchisors are going to have to adopt the technology because all of the competitors are. And then where our differentiator comes in is where it used to be back in the day, back when newspaper advertising was the way you got franchisee. It is all about relationships, interpersonal relationships, with the business side of things taken care of largely by AI. Now, I am very, very happy to show you guys a few examples, and these are just really early workings of what we've done for some of the clients. I'm going to use one of my clients here in the UK just as an example. We created a couple of chatbots, and what you're going to see now is not the polished version. It's sort of version 1, and I'm doing this on purpose just so that you can see exactly what kind of capability these things have. So if I just start off with oh God, where's it gone? Let me just start off with this page over here. So before going to that one, so here is a quick example of what we made for one of our clients, Shuttercraft. And this was just to show them, what we could do given the information that they have available. So, we're able to provide them with direct customer service. So whether that's just on their website, so customers can ask questions. This customer service bot over here, the one in blue, this was just business to consumer. It took us about 30 minutes to set this up. What we did is we trained an AI on the customer's website. It went and it crawled their whole website, right? So their website now, every single time they update their websites, that website becomes their knowledge base for all intents and purposes. And for those of you guys who don't know what Shuttercraft does, they do premium wooden window shutters for inside the home. But, we gave them this example and we said, look, what do your customers generally want? And they might have questions about shutters, right? So let me just go over here. And what this AI will do is it will start asking questions. So are all shutters pre-made, or do you have to measure them? And honestly, we can ask it any question, generally speaking. It'll say things like, where is my local franchisee? And hopefully it'll ask on, okay, so I'm just going to go Andover just as a random town. And let's see how accurate it is. There we go. We've got a Shuttercraft franchisee in Southampton. And this is actually completely correct. We've got a guy who runs Southampton and Winchester. So, this customer service bot can literally answer any question that your customer has. There's an argument to say that websites predominantly be sort of AI focused above the fold, and then all the other content in the website is largely just going to be stuff for SEO purposes and to train the AI to identify you as a service provider, because customers should be able to just literally go on there and say, hey, I want Timmy to do swimming lessons on a Tuesday. Can you help me? And it should immediately be able to go and say, yes, we can. Then we also had a thing with franchisees. Now, I'm fairly certain that many of you might have come across this phenomenon of franchisees not doing marketing, even though they're asked to do marketing. And most importantly, franchisees who do marketing and then completely and utterly ignore brand guidelines and everything else. So we thought, okay, well, why don't we just do this? Why don't we train it on the brand guidelines? Why don't we train it on the products? Why don't we train it on anything? And it starts off with, what content can I create for you today? And I could just say, I am on a first Friday, meeting with a bunch of franchisors, and I want to sell them shutters. Can you create me a special offer just for them? So this thing should go and should be able to create me absolutely on brand, information. There we go. Before I create a special offer for you, could you please tell me which area you're targeting with this offer? This is UK wide. And what I trained it to do is basically just ask some clarifying questions. So what it came up with over here was exclusive First Friday offer, franchise friends discount, offer 15% off any order of shutters for fellow franchisees when booked during the meeting, right? It can do pretty much anything. So if I said, please create me a press release to support this offer. This offer, it will be going to the, news of the world. The world. So it should be able to create, any sort of, information that's exactly right. Now, why is this useful? Well, this thing can be accessed by franchisees on their phone. The Shuttercraft franchisees are in their van almost all day. They've got long periods where they're just sitting in a van, reminiscing and thinking about all the things that, are horrible about franchising and, and all the other, things about finding clients, etc. With this, they can sit there and they can literally type in what they want. They can create social media posts. They can create Google ads. They can create anything that they want. And they can just simply copy and paste it from their phone, onto a notepad or wherever it might be, or even directly into their Facebook ads, take a photo then and there, and just get that going. Now, those are really simple. I mean, bots have been around for a long time. These are slightly smarter than others. You can test them, to death in terms of trying to get them to give you all kinds of stuff. They are smart. They are as smart as, I guess, the average person that you would hire to sit on the other side of your customer services bot. So if there was a live human responding to all of this, I would without a doubt say that this could go on par with that human. Where things do start getting interesting is when franchisees are just sitting there and they're feeling lonely. And remember, this is very specifically designed for a man and van operation, where, like I said, the guys are often sitting in the van for an hour waiting to go to the next quote or whatever it might be. So some of these guys aren't all that into typing on their phone all the time. So I thought, well, what if we could just connect them to their Bluetooth and start doing something like this? And in this scenario, this is where a franchisee has received one of those crazy reports from their digital marketing agency that's saying things like ROAS and, bits and bobs about their marketing.
Thought, Peggy, thinking, how can I brighten up your Shuttercraft day today?
Oh, hi, Peggy. Listen, I'm just sat here with a bunch of franchisors on a Zoom meeting, and I want to try and create an offer or something like that to, get them to buy shutters from me. Have you got any advice?
All right, mate. Refresh deal with a discount on orders over a certain amount, or maybe a free upgrade, like a hidden tilt feature on cafe style shutters. What do you reckon would work best for your area? And do you have a budget in mind for this offer?
No, actually, just come to think of it, I do actually need your help on a problem I have with a customer. So I've got a customer who's absolutely going off on me because the installation is going to be 2 weeks later than I first kind of described. I have been in contact with the customer, telling them that we've got shipping problems from China, but and also that every shutter is bespoke, but they just really are on me. How do I deal with this? What do I do?
Right. Frustration. Maybe reach out and say you completely understand their disappointment, then reassure them that you're doing everything you can to expedite the process. You can offer a small gesture like a discount or a free upgrade to show you're committed to making it right. Have you considered setting up a follow-up call to discuss their concerns directly? That might help ease their mind a bit. What do you think?
Well, I've sent them WhatsApps telling them what's going on, but they just seem like they're just not having any of it. So, do you think I should get the franchisor involved, or should I just send over this offer, make the call? What do you think is the best way to de-escalate this whole thing?
And they're still upset, it might be worth getting the franchise law involved, especially if they can lend some authority to the situation. However, before that, I'd suggest crafting a clear, empathetic message that includes your offer. Maybe say something like, I understand how frustrating this is, and to show my commitment to you, I'd like to offer you insert offer here. Then follow up with a call to discuss it personally. That way, you're showing you care while also providing a solution. How does that sound to you?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. And yeah, that's all I need for now. Thank you.
Need anything else down the line, just give me a shout. Cheers, break time. It's 600 million.
Anyway, so yes, I did choose that voice on purpose. But it was more just to make that sort of demonstrate that the capabilities of these voices are absolutely extraordinary. So we currently have customers calling in and their phone calls being answered by techie AI that we've created over in the States. I would probably say about 90% of the customers have absolutely no idea that they're speaking to an AI. The other thing, well, other than the fact that we actually tell them it, but the other thing I'd say too is techie, along with almost any sort of retail type franchise, food franchise, many of these franchises suffer from a massive problem in that the staff are often too busy to answer the phone, and even if a message is left, right, the odds of them being called back very, very low. And also there's a general sort of hesitation when it comes to call centers. So many sort of franchisees don't sign up to call centers, prescribe to call centers, or anything like that. So what we did is we started, and I think the reason for it is because it's not very personal. So what we did with Techie is every single store is completely personalized to the location, right? So they speak about, as an example, in Fort Lauderdale, Pompano Beach, Deerfield Beach. They speak about local areas. Our AI will even give people directions to the store. And when I say directions the same way we would, where it says turn left on this, go over there, look for this landmark. We directly next to that. So it's pretty advanced stuff. What I wanted to do is also just give you a quick idea of some of the basic things that we're doing for franchisee lead vetting. So here's an example we just put together this morning with one of the systems we use.
It's a great day at the Techie Franchise Vetting Center. How can I help?
Oh, hi. Yeah, I'm interested in the Techie franchise. I got told to give you a call before proceeding.
That's fantastic to hear. I'm here to assist you with the Techie franchise process. Let's start by getting some basic information from you. May I have your first name and the city you're calling from?
Yeah, sure. My name's Sean, and I'm calling from Santa Barbara.
Great to meet you, Sean, from Santa Barbara. Are you a U.S. citizen, or are you calling from another country with an interest in opening a Techie store there or joining us in the U.S. on an E1 investor visa?
No, I'm actually a US citizen.
Perfect, Sean. Thanks for letting me know. To guide you correctly, how familiar are you with Techie so far? Have you ever visited one of our stores?
Yes, in fact, I did. The first Techie store I visited was in Sydney in Australia. And I know that you guys do tech repairs, not just phones, but any form of tech. So I'm pretty familiar with the company.
That's good to hear, Sean. Visiting our store in Sydney must have been a wonderful experience. Many of our U.S. locations operate inside Walmart supercenters through a national partnership. Had you heard about that? Or
Yeah, that was actually one of the things that I was really interested in. How does that all work?
the partnership with Walmart allows us to bring our tech repair and retail services to a wider audience by operating within Walmart supercenters. This strategic collaboration provides convenience for customers who can access our services while shopping at Walmart. It's a mutually beneficial arrangement that enhances the overall shopping experience for both.
Right, I'm just going to stop it there for now. So that AI vetting, the actual, the being able to speak to the AI, that happens through the telephone. By the way, there's a telephone number. They can just phone into that. It can be inbound, it can be outbound, it can be any bound, really. But there are some very, very good reasons why it's almost superior to having human vetting. One of the reasons is that it has no emotion, right? So as we all know, lead vetters are not born equal. There are people who will let a prospect through just purely because they remind them of their, I don't know, primary school best friend. There's something in the voice, right? So there isn't an innate bias when humans are speaking. Whether we like it or not, we make decisions on whether somebody sounds good or whether somebody sounds not good. And you guys would have all seen it or even said it yourself. Oh, they sound great, the fact that the guys that sound great on the phone often don't perform that well was one of the reasons why this AI became quite an interesting thing, because there is a standardization in the questioning, a standardization in the interview. There's a way that you can ask about the funds available. Are they going to need funding, which is one of the questions that came on. There's a reason it asks about what they know about the brand, because in my view, any franchisee that comes onto any phone call or potential franchisee that comes onto any phone call and first says, please tell me about your business, right, has no business becoming a franchisee, because the genetic history of a franchise is generally online. And if they at this point where they're making a phone call and they haven't even researched you, I mean, that doesn't even, to me, it's ridiculous. But so we want to know what they know. We want to know where they're at. We want to know what money they've got. We want to know how they answer, etc. Now, what you guys don't know is on the back end of that, right? The AI is doing sentiment analysis. It is giving them score in terms of knowledge on the brand. And what the brand does, it is giving them a score in terms of their finances, their available capital. If they don't have capital and they are looking for funding options, that's absolutely fine. On the US version, they get introduced to the SBA loan system and all that kind of stuff. But effectively, we've had to build something that vets in a consistent manner. So that there is no bias when it comes to the person's answers. What it's looking for is it's looking for a consistency and it's looking for a certain type of answer. And it can, given the training. So we work with the franchisors to basically go, what's important to you? What do you want to know? And what do great responses look like? And what are the responses of your most successful franchisees? What were the responses of your most successful franchisees? And we try and match that up. So it's completely customizable as to what you get in the background. But again, what it does is it gives franchisors an efficiency that they've never had before. Because typically speaking, it was either the salesperson or a junior or anybody who just happened to, you know, pull the short straw that had to do the calls. And the outbound calling, as much as anyone said that they would do it consistently and everything like that, it just really never happened. I put an article out in LinkedIn the other day talking about how the post event sort of process after going to you know, a franchise show or something like that is much more important than the actual event itself. And that is where almost all franchisors fall down flat, is the follow-up, because especially in Britain, right, there's a politeness that says, you know, I'm not going to chase you too hard because that would be rude, you know. But, you know, with the AI, you can do that. You can follow up. You can set it to be as empathetic as you like. You can choose a voice that would sound like your sweet Aunt Dorothy if you needed it, you know, or a young, energetic, hyper aggressive salesperson. If that suited your brand, you can do all of those things. So anyway, these are just examples of what we've been doing. Now, just because I'm aware I'm probably eating up a lot of time at the moment, Julie, I'm sure I'm close to my time limit. Am I?
No, you've got about 5 minutes left, Sean.
Cool. I'll start with my controversial statements about AI and law in that case. But you know, for a long time, I've you know, we've been saying, especially in America, you know, the legally, or at least the ability to create legal clauses, franchise agreements, and all that kind of stuff has been possible for years. Well, I'd like to say years now. We've been working very closely with a few franchise lawyers in the States to basically completely change how the FDD process works. Not only the creation of the FDD, but also in the renewals, right? And currently, for those of you guys who don't know, to go into the US could cost you, to create an FDD, anything from $20,000 if you find a nice cheapie, all the way through to $200,000, maybe even more, right? Just to create this document. The big secret is that this document is almost entirely templated. You know, there's sometimes a bit of a song and a dance, a bit of research that goes into, you know, finding out a lot of the information to put into the FDD. But a lot of this can largely be done through interviews. And the AI can do the interviews, and it can do in-depth interviews, and it can be taught to, you know, to hit every single marker. In fact, we even got it to where we have an AI that is an oversight AI on the creation of these documents and legal documents and things like that, that will then go and check whether or not this guy's done a good job. What we are very, very careful of, however, is always to create anything that might even remotely be considered, you know, legal, is always done with human oversight. So there's a big red button, I call it, and nothing goes out without a human pressing the big red button, right, and saying, I've read this and I think it's great. Now, I'm going to say something that's I know there's at least 2 lawyers in the room, but how I figured out that AI is pretty good at this legal contract thing is I actually created a full franchise contract about a year and a half ago. You know, it was an international one for Belgium. Created it from scratch using ChatGPT. You know, I've been around the block, so I know what franchise agreements look like, what they need to have, and all that kind of stuff. But I went through a process, right, where I created this contract. I then sent it to one of my franchise lawyer friends in the UK, and I said, listen, don't you just want to review this thing for me? And I told him that another franchise friend of mine had written it, and I just wanted him to check whether or not it was good, right? And the feedback was amazing. He came back and he said, you know what, there's actually 2 clauses I'm going to steal if you don't mind. So I made no mention of AI in that whole process, right? I literally said that one human lawyer had written it. Please, can you just review it just because I want a second opinion, right? And this thing was entirely from scratch written with AI. Now, the caveat here is, again, the most important thing that we want to do is we never want to create AI that is autonomous in the sense that it doesn't go through a proper and qualified person, right? What we do want to do is we want to make the proper and qualified people have a much easier time of creating much better contracts, right? Without the tedium of going through all the basic stuff. Because, you know, I know at least for some of the law firms, you know, paralegals are putting these things together, you know, doing a lot of the work. And then the interview process of how do we customize this franchise agreement for your particular franchise, you know, was always the problem. Now, what I'm going to say, just from the legal point of view, is that at this stage, it's still a, you know, I don't know, a 50-50 on whether or not it is as good as a human lawyer. What I have seen is the snowballing effect of the intelligence of AI has become very, very, very scary. And if it is not at a point where it is good enough now, it certainly will be in a few months, definitely a year, you know, and maybe even shorter. And, you know, to the extent where I think that we will start seeing, you know, a lot of the work being done just on ChatGPT itself, if I'm completely honest. I already know that there's a number of franchisors that are using ChatGPT to create clauses. And I know Trina and everyone are going to be like, oh, I wouldn't do that if I were you. You're going to get into deep trouble. But, you know, I've just seen too much. Now, just to finish off, to tell you how far this AI thing has gone and what kind of adoption it's getting, especially over in the US. We've been very, very lucky to be given the mandate by both Techie and Walmart to create their very, very first fully autonomous retail outlet. So what we're talking about over here is an actual store where there's one staff member who is invisible out in the back doing repairs, and the whole retail experience, right, is being run by AI. So if you imagine walking into your typical phone repair store and, you know, perhaps there's 5 or 10 iPads with my face on, you know, lucky you. And as you walk in, it says, hi there, can I help you with anything? And you go, oh, yeah, I was quite keen on this new iPhone 16. And it goes, oh, yeah, it's a brilliant phone. What phone do you have at the moment? And it fully interacts with you as if it is a person, right? And as you walk around the store, the AI can follow you, right? And if you then go, oh, is this the right case for my iPhone, right? It'll go, oh, no, actually, that's the Pro Max. You should actually take the other one. And then I can take all my things and go, okay, great. So I'd like this one, and I'd like that and that and that. And literally just go to a little pigeonhole, and it'll bring the items out to me. I pay, and that's it. Jobs are good, and I'm out of there. No issue whatsoever in terms of having to have somebody actually stalk me around the store. You know, and I think that that's the way that things are going to go. We can already see this being something that will happen in clothing stores. We already know that there's AI that's incredibly good at taking a look at you and changing your outfit. So if you imagine in a clothing store, you should be able to have an iPad or a screen over there, and you go, oh, I quite like this dress. I want it to look like on me, right? And go back like that, and boom, it'll just literally live put that dress on you, or that shirt, or whatever it might be. I'm not saying that I buy dresses, by the way, but you know, so this is where we're going with everything. So anyway, guys, this is honestly just a real whistle stop kind of tour of the things that are happening within franchising at the moment within AI. What I would say to you is, if you've got a franchise, jump into this, jump hard into this, right? And understand that for the first time, this is not the kind of technology that you're used to. This isn't like when you sign up for HubSpot or one of those kind of CRMs or something like that, where you buy it with a view that it's going to be there and consistent for the next 5 years, right? Because it just simply won't be. AI is an ever evolving beast. We use it in ways that we can evolve with, as opposed to going, okay, great, I'm going to get a thing, I'm going to build it today, and this thing is going to be fit for purpose for the next 4 years. It just will not be like that. So if you have any questions or are interested in this kind of technology, how it might work in your particular business, feel free to give us a shout. I can talk for hours about this, as Julie knows. So,
Sean, no, thank you. I mean, I've always said I'm working towards making myself redundant, and I think I've just found out how it can be achieved, basically.
Indeed.
So I think AI is coming to replace me, hopefully.
Julie, just to interrupt, I did forget to do one thing. I should have shown you guys, but I created an AI avatar of myself, right? That my children didn't recognize it was me. Literally speaking to them. It was speaking to them, interacting live with them. Right. My kids didn't know it wasn't me.
Oh, right. Scary. Well, maybe my kids won't recognize me either with a bit of luck. And before, I'm going to bring Sophie into the discussion to talk about the stuff that she's doing in legal aspects. But just before that, Sean, you need to watch the last episode of this series of The Apprentice, because Alan Sugar's invested in an air conditioning business. And the last edition, last episode, they've created an AI virtual store to sell air conditioning. So it was just what you've described there.
Perfect.
Sophie, can I ask you to, before we go to questions, can I ask you to join the discussion and share with us your planned trip to America?
Yeah, of course.
What's it all about?
So for anyone that doesn't know, I'm Sophie Peasy. I'm just from Hamilton Pratt. We're a group of franchise lawyers. I will start by saying, as inevitably I am disagreeing with the ChatGPT franchise agreement, because we once tried it. We got it to produce one, and I'll agree that it wasn't a bad draft, but it wasn't quite there. And we also got a client put in our franchise agreement into some AI to provide some comments on it. And some of the comments it suggested we make some amendments for would have just made some of the clauses unenforceable. So, for example, it said, make the post-termination restrictions 3 years long. And for various reasons, you can't do that and it be enforceable. So I think there is still a way to go, but I admit that there probably will become a point where it can do a pretty good bash at a franchise agreement. So, we'll be in trouble then. But yeah, so on Sunday, I'm actually going to Washington. Every year there's an international franchise conference there, the Legal Symposium. And this year I'm talking about news around the world, specifically how the UK is going to regulate AI. So I've been looking into that. And our position on it has shifted quite a lot recently. The first official regulation that came in was in the form of a white paper in March 2023. And this white paper was setting out the framework for how the UK wants to regulate AI. And rather than enforcing horizontal legislation that would mean it was quite strict, the UK government decided, this was a Conservative government at that point, to do a more flexible principles-based approach. So they set out these 5 principles that they wanted individual regulators to then take into account, and that they would individually legislate for AI within their remit based around these principles. So I'll whiz through the principles really quickly. The 5 are safety, security, robustness, appropriate transparency and explainability, fairness, accountability and governance, and redress. So, I mean, I don't know about you, but I think they're pretty wishy-washy. And I'm not sure how regulators were then going to go away and do anything with that. And the government just literally gave out these principles, and at some point they were going to make it a requirement that regulators had to have regard to them. But for now, it was just, here are some principles, do what you want with them, pretty much. And because there were so many concerns about the fact that fell short, and obviously AI comes with a lot of safety concerns, there was actually a private members bill that got introduced into Parliament. So a private members bill is a bill that's introduced by someone that is not a government minister. And the purpose of this bill was to address the shortcomings of the white paper. So it was going to create an AI regulator and also codify those principles so that it was more of a set obligation to take them into account. But as is always the case with private members' bills, they just go nowhere. And it actually, this particular AI bill got scrapped when the government changed over to Labour. It has been reintroduced. I think it was reintroduced in March, and it has passed the first reading, but it still has a huge way to go. And I would be surprised if it makes it. So also with the change, or you can probably hear the ice cream van in the background, sorry about that. Also with the change in government to Labour signified a change in approach that initially Labour said they were going to come in hard with AI regulation. There was going to be this big AI bill that was going to be quite strict. And so that's what they said in the King's speech when they first came in. And we're now into May and we've still not seen it. And the suggestion is that it's not going to be introduced until after summer, if then at all. So, Labour kind of had this initial, let's regulate AI, and then started to take a step back and were like, oh, actually, I don't know that we want to do that. And they actually refused to also sign the Paris Declaration, which was like this international declaration about regulating AI. We didn't sign it, and neither did the US. So at the moment, it looks like Labour are kind of taking an approach that is similar to the US in that being a bit more laid back with it, not going hard in on the regulation. Their reason being is that this allows for AI to develop without it being restricted, and that we can really be a leader in AI. But then that comes with the downside of it not being particularly regulated. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how the private members bill proceeds, and also whether Labour do circle back to introducing something a bit more strict. But at the moment, it's kind of in the unknown, and we just have these principles that it's not really clear how they're being applied. So I think, we're just going to have to keep an eye on how it goes, and hopefully maybe see a bit more AI regulation, because I personally think it is needed.
So would it be fair to say, Sophie, that in terms of the UK and the US, we're both in a similar position in relation to, i.e. we're still on the blocks?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'll be able to say more after I've been to this conference and other people talk about US regulation. But from what I understand, there isn't really much at the moment. I think some individual states have put forward some stricter regulation, but that is in the minority. That the most at the moment, most of the states don't really have anything in place.
So the main regulation that I've come across, just because we're building a lot out there, the thing that I'm being wary of is data collection. So the innate threat with AI is what on earth are the LLMs collecting and the middlemen of the LLMs collecting. So if you would have noticed on the example I gave with the lead vetting, it didn't ask for any information, personal information other than name and just sort of town kind of thing. So I know that every single time one of the AIs speak, whether through chatbots or through voice or video or whatever it might be, it will collect all of that information. It has to take that information into the LLM to think, and then create an output, and often it will go through a third party too. So data collection is one thing that I would be wary of, but again, less so in the UK than the US, because the US people can individually sue. Because if somebody just feels like OpenAI has got their data via techie, then they can just randomly sue if they want to. Cousin might be a lawyer. So that's the one area we've been looking at. In terms of the other areas where we are busy looking at solutions sort of preemptively. So I think what's going to happen is LLMs are getting so smart at the moment, and China has really been leading the way on this, that you can actually host a whole AI brain on site, right? Through open source software, etc. And a lot of people are doing it. But the problem that we innately have when you're talking about America and the UK, or Europe, I guess, is the minute you start a sentence with the word ch, right, people start freaking out. Because, is it Chinese? Is it stealing data, et cetera, et cetera? We know it probably isn't, because it's open source. It's locally hosted. You can put security around the whole thing. But those are the kind of things. There will be like enterprise versions where I personally think every company is going to have their own AI at some point, just hosted on site, for security purposes and things. So we really are digging deep. At the moment, we're busy looking at how we can transfer the whole of Techie's operations onto an on-site LLM and run all of their calls and everything through there so that we know that there's some form of data security. But those are the two areas that I think that might become an issue. But as for the rest, I mean, I think there was just recently a court case where one of the US courts sort of threw a case out about copyright. So if you want to see something dead scary, any of you and any of your franchises, right? Go and type into ChatGPT or any AI, right, that has access to the internet. Say, I want to start a franchise, right, that does what, I don't know, Shuttercraft does, right? Here's their web address. Please, can you go and research them in depth and create me a full business model of that franchise? So I did this with Anne-Marie from Diddy Dance the other day, right? While she was on the call, I said, Anne-Marie, do you want to, because she was worried about sort of IP and everything like that. The word IP doesn't, I mean, the only IP you have is speed right now, and excellence in your business. Because if you type in, create this franchise, put in the URL, right? What it did for Diddy Dance, and not only copied Diddy Dance completely, it even created lesson plans immediately, right? For the classes. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is that we're in an era where our defense is speed and being at the front edge of what's going on over here. Because, there really isn't very much that I haven't been able to achieve with AI, research and everything like that, So bear that in mind, I guess. I don't know how they'd regulate that in law.
Alan, do you have any comments, thoughts in terms of any of your clients, UK-based or otherwise, who are currently using AI in relation to recruitment or any other areas?
Julia, you're asking the wrong person. I listen with interest, but I don't understand it. I'm absolutely not techie. We are starting to use some AI in certain areas. I know, Sean, I know you've had long conversations with Duggan on this. We've attended quite a few seminars and webinars and that sort of thing on AI. But it's new to me, but it's not new to us, Julie, should I say. So if one or three or four of my colleagues are on here, they'll be able to answer that far better.
No,
but do you know what? It's scary but exciting, I think I would say.
Yeah, thank you. Kat, do you have any thoughts in terms of either the legal aspects or anything that you've seen within clients, UK-based or otherwise, using AI?
Yeah, obviously, as Sean noticed, my face was trying to keep a neutral face while he was talking earlier, but was obviously failing. Yeah, I agreed everything with what Sophie said in terms of, yes, it could create a franchise agreement, but would it actually be fit for purpose? Probably not, but it may well have some good clauses in there. And yes, further down the line, we might be getting a little concerned. But yeah, I mean, I think that, Sean's little demo that he did with Shuttercraft earlier on, I don't think I have ever had a chat with a chatbot that has gone smoothly, unless I just asked it, what time has something happened. You just end up going round and round in circles and getting annoyed. So I mean, that might be me, but I would have just loved to have got onto the Shuttercraft chatbot there and just seen whether or not I could upset it. Well, upset me, actually. It wouldn't be upset. It would be me that would be upset by it, and just go,
sorry, Kat, I haven't cut. I thought you finished. Continue.
And my concern is, so the bit where you were talking to the lady, that I was quite impressed with it actually. But what happens if the prospective franchisee suddenly goes, hang on a minute, I think this is a chatbot and not a real person? You know, a few years down the line, that might all be quite normal, and you know, you're okay with that. Whereas at this point in time, if I was a prospective franchisee and I realised I'd just been talking to a robot in effect for the last half an hour instead of a real person, I would feel a little bit aggrieved that the franchisor hadn't actually bothered to give me their own time.
Okay.
But again, I don't. Yeah, that might be me.
Just a quick response on that. So how we deal with that is we always tell people it's an AI. Right. And the second way we deal with this is a very, very simple little trick I discovered with the retail guys is we say, would you like to speak to somebody, in the store, or would you like instant answers?
Yeah. Chris, can I bring you in? Because we've got a few minutes left now. And obviously as a franchisor who's always actively looking at technology and harnessing and enhancing, you know, they'd be interested in your views on it and what's happening in Poppies.
Absolutely. We're about to pull the trigger on a system which will start to answer the phones for us and direct a national number and direct users to the right branch. So, you know, please tell me what branch you're calling from or what town you're calling from. But if you want to talk to someone in the head office or you're an existing franchisee, etc., so it'll have a conversation with you. But beyond that, it's already capable of having the kind of conversations that Groe's talked about, you know, in terms of it'll learn from our, we can teach it from our website, even franchise manuals or sections of those franchise manuals. And you know, it's 500 quid a month, something like that. It's you know, it's so cheap compared to, you know, a person sitting in an office doing that kind of thing. It's available 24/7. It's got almost infinite capacity. Yeah, this is starting to, as Groe says, explode really, and the capabilities are amazing. You know, the difference in chat, I think most people have had a play with chat. The difference in the response and the accuracy and the kind of conversation you have with chat now from 6 months ago is night and day. But it's absolutely worth straight away on chat having a subscription service and setting your privacy settings. Top tip, this is set the privacy settings so that whatever you're asking it, it's not remembering and using in its own language model and advising other people on the back of that. So critically important that. And I think you can't do that with the free versions of ChatGPT.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. Well, we're not kind of harnessing AI today, but we are using a program that's provided by us by Neil Newman called Gather. And as we do with all of our events, if you would just take the time to scan the barcode and leave some feedback on today's session, which takes 30 seconds, including the opportunity to get further information down the line from Sean about, you know, the systems that Groe developing and any suggestions that you have for future events. Again, we're always open to, you know, any guest speakers that participants would like us to bring on or any topics that they would like us to cover. And on that basis, our next event, which is in June, Friday the 6th of June, which is quite amazing and surprising because when we're halfway through the year, is talking about territory mapping. And we've gone from South Africa to France, and we've got Lauren Leclerc from SMAPN, who's coming on to talk to us about obviously the SMAPN system, but also the territory mapping, and specifically in relation to growth and growth opportunities, and basically how to grow your business, how to maximise your opportunity and your potential by linking in and using the territory allocation, mapping and management to maximise, you know, the opportunity for any franchisor basically. So that is our next event in June. And finally, just to once again thank Sean for his contribution today, and likewise Sophie. And Sophie, we wish you well in your trip to America on Sunday. That's interesting, and hopefully come back and share with us the results and again some more feedback in terms of what's happening in America. So yeah, thanks everyone for attending, and